Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another League of Legends video. Today, I'm going to be covering the top 5 mid laners in Season 7. So first off the top, this list was really hard to make because there's so many good mid laners in Season 7 right now, and it was quite a struggle to come out with just 5. If you guys do feel that there's a more worthy champion for the top 5, then please let me know down in the comments below. But anyways, let's start with our runner-up, Talon. Talon's been a really strong mid laner for a while now since his rework because he has so much mobility and so much damage. He's even a pretty easy champion to play. There's not too much that goes into pulling off one of his combos. He's got a pretty respectable win rate, but he does however have some hard counters. The good thing about Talon though, if you are against a hard counter, you can just roam around the map a lot and snowball that way. He's a really solid champion that's very fun to play, but just not good enough to make the cut. Alright, now let's hop into our actual top 5 with Fizz, who is also a melee assassin, but instead AP based. Fizz is an incredibly bursty champion once he gets his Lich Bane. All of his abilities do some pretty solid damage, and in the late game with a full item build, just his ultimate can one-shot some squishies. Fizz does require some champion knowledge however, and really solid use of his E ability. Some matchups do have the potential to really bully you, but if you can use your E ability effectively and dodge their high damage, usually you can win trades pretty easily. It's completely dependent on your skill level. Now, a decent Fizz player also doesn't seem to have that many hard matchups. At Platinum level and beyond, your lowest win rates are around 48%, which is pretty damn decent. His rework W ability is pretty fantastic as well. It makes you very bursty as long as you wait for the full duration, and the activation is great for last hitting. If you are somebody that struggles at last hitting, especially under tower, Fizz may be a champion you want to pick up because you can activate your W over and over again and easily get those minions. With his E ability and his Zonias, you have some really solid defensives, and locking down a Fizz long enough to kill him can sometimes be an issue even though you are very squishy. If you're looking to add another mid laner into your champion pool, Fizz is definitely worth considering. The fact that tanky Fizz top is also a really solid choice makes Fizz a very solid pick early on in the draft as well. Moving on, in my number 4 position we got Kassadin, another melee AP assassin that's very mobile and does a lot of damage. Kassadin's going to struggle in the early game, but he becomes a complete monster in the late game. Although he's kind of known as an anti-mage, he can still do pretty decently against AD mid laners if he does max his E ability. He is a bit more counter-pickable than Fizz, but his mobility and high damage is just absolutely nuts. In the lane phase, you can take a couple points in your Q ability just to have a decent sized mana shield and have some really effective trades. Last hitting, just like Fizz, is going to be pretty easy on Kassadin because of your W ability yet again. It passively adds some damage onto your auto attacks, and when you activate it, it does even more and gives you some mana. Pretty nice because he is somewhat mana hungry if you are spamming your Q ability. Then, when you're finally level 6, your all-in potential goes through the roof because of your ultimate. It gives you so much mobility, frankly, it's kind of stupid, and if you stack it multiple times, it can do an absurd amount of damage. In the late game, one ultimate with the rest of your abilities will easily bring down a squishy target. In my number 3 position, I've got Ziggs, who's our first range mid laner with a lot of burst and ridiculous wave clear. Now, when I say ridiculous wave clear, I really do mean ridiculous because him by himself can completely stop a siege. He's got multiple forms of AoE, and when he uses them in succession, he can clear an entire minion wave. He's also got a really long range ultimate that he can use to snipe kills from a long distance or also stop a split push. He's really strong against champions looking to win via split push because he can use his ultimate from a very long range and clear the entire minion wave, completely stopping the push. If he's got a really solid late game team, he can stall until they catch up and then easily win the game later on. With all that being said, he still has insanely strong burst. Using his Q, W, and E in quick succession together usually equals a dead squishy target. Ziggs even works really well in a siege comp, which is one of the things he's so good against. His satchel charge can be used to bring down towers within a certain health threshold, which is a great way to push lanes. You don't want to get into a split push battle against a team with a Ziggs because the Ziggs is usually going to come out on top. Alright, moving on, in my number 2 position I've got Anivia, who provides a lot of burst damage and a lot of control. She's a champion that doesn't have the best early game, but she scales like an absolute monster. Since she is also very reliant on mana, we go for either a Rod of Ages or a Hextech GLP, and then also get an Archangel's Staff. She can definitely have some mana issues in a long drawn out team fight, but this alone will solve your issues. She's also a very immobile champion, so positioning is key, and that Seraph's Embrace will give you a really solid shield, really increasing your tankiness. Now, Anivia is also a very skill shot reliant champion, but if you can either slow them with your ultimate or wall them in, your Q will be a lot easier to land, and then you can go for a full burst combo. Just a Q and an E can take half the health off of a pretty squishy target. Pretty crazy. With your wall ability Crystallize, you also have some pretty solid pick potential and can cut teams in half, giving your team a massive advantage. An Anivia in the right hands can be completely devastating, and it is why she did make it into the number 2 slot. And in the number 1 position, of course, we have Ahri, who easily stands out in that number 1 position and has a lot of damage, mobility, and great pick potential. Ahri's a champion with a ton of burst damage and mobility that can dive into a backline, get a kill, and then easily get back out. She's kind of like Kassadin in that sense, but she also has some lane sustain from her orb ability, and the crowd control from her charm makes her much stronger than Kassadin. When you're playing against an Ahri, you really have to respect her mobility and her charm because she can jump forward and charm you and get an insanely easy kill. She is a somewhat skill shot reliant champion, but as long as you can land your charm, your Q will be incredibly easy to land. With all of her mobility, damage, and crowd control, she has very solid roams, and she can get all of her lanes snowballing. Sometimes when you're playing with an Ahri, it feels like you have a second jungler. All in all, there's just so many different things an Ahri can do in a game, and therefore easily chosen as number 1. But that, ladies and gentlemen, rounds out our top 5 champions for mid lane in Season 7. If you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure you like and subscribe because I pretty much have a League of Legends video coming out every single day. Also, if you guys do feel like I left a really strong champion out of the top 5, please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you guys would like to visit more of my content, please check out the video description below for a link to all my social medias. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching the video, I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, and peace.